Picture a government building in Washington, D.C., its windows glowing amber against the pre-dawn darkness. Inside, fluorescent lights flicker over rows of computer screens displaying classified telemetry data. The air hums with the quiet tension of secrets being kept. It was 3:47 a.m. when the encrypted message arrived in the inbox of a veteran space journalist. No sender identification, no digital fingerprints, just a single attachment labeled Atlas Classified PDF and a brief note, "They are not telling you everything about what's orbiting Mars." The document contained 17 pages of redacted NASA communications, deep space tracking logs, and something that would change everything we thought we knew about our cosmic neighborhood. References to an object designated 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar visitor to our solar system. But unlike the previous two, this one wasn't behaving like a simple space rock drifting through the void. Intelligence sources within the Department of Defense had been monitoring unusual activity near the red planet for months. Radio telescopes had detected structured emissions. Orbital mechanics computers were flagging impossible trajectory corrections. Most disturbing of all, the object appeared to be slowing down. The leak arrived at a time when public attention was focused elsewhere. Climate conferences dominated headlines. Political scandals filled news cycles. Meanwhile, something extraordinary was happening in the darkness between worlds, and only a handful of people knew the truth. What makes this revelation particularly unsettling isn't just what the documents reveal. It's what they conceal. Page after page of blacked out sections. Critical data points replaced with dark rectangles. Conversations truncated mid-sentence, as if someone realized they were saying too much. The unnamed source included a final, haunting message. "We are not alone in paying attention to this object. It seems to be paying attention to us." As dawn broke over the Capitol that morning, a small group of investigative journalists began making calls. Reaching out to contacts at NASA, the European Space Agency, private observatories around the world. The responses were consistent and troubling, either complete denial of knowledge or nervous requests to discuss the matter off the record. Something was moving in the space around Mars, something that defied easy categorization, something that official channels seemed determined to keep quiet. The silence itself became the story. In an age of instantaneous information sharing, when amateur astronomers can photograph distant galaxies from their backyards, how does an entire solar system event disappear from public view? Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the leak wasn't what it revealed about 3I Atlas itself, but what it suggested about our species' readiness to confront the implications of genuine cosmic contact. The documents hinted at heated debates within intelligence communities. Arguments about disclosure protocols, contingency plans for scenarios no one wanted to imagine. As we peer deeper into this unfolding mystery, one question echoes through the redacted pages. If they're working so hard to keep this secret, what are they afraid we might discover? The story begins not with fanfare, but with whispers. Deep space monitoring stations scattered across Earth's surface had been detecting anomalies for months before the leak surfaced. Radio telescopes in Chile's Atacama Desert recorded unusual signal patterns. The Very Large Array in New Mexico flagged electromagnetic emissions that didn't match any known natural phenomena. These weren't the chaotic bursts typically associated with stellar events or the predictable patterns of pulsars. Instead, analysts described something far more unsettling: structured transmissions that seemed to pulse with intentional rhythm. Dr. Sarah Chen, a radio astronomer at the Arecibo Observatory's successor facility, later described the signals in hushed tones to colleagues. "Imagine hearing a heartbeat in deep space," she said during what she thought was a private conversation. "Not random, not mechanical, something in between." The leaked documents suggest that initial detection occurred in late 2023, when multiple observatories independently noticed gravitational perturbations in Mars's orbital mechanics. Something was affecting the planet's movement, subtly, but measurably. When astronomers turned their instruments toward the source of the disturbance, they found 3I Atlas. Unlike Oumuamua, the cigar-shaped visitor that captivated public imagination in 2017, or Comet Borisov, which behaved exactly as comets should, this new arrival defied categorization. Its spectrum shifted unpredictably. Its albedo, the measure of how much light it reflects, varied in patterns that suggested either a tumbling, irregularly shaped rock or something far more complex. Mission control transcripts from various space agencies reveal a growing sense of unease. Controllers initially classified 3I Atlas as a standard interstellar asteroid, but as observation data accumulated, the classifications kept changing. Asteroid became irregular object. Irregular object became anomalous body. Eventually, internal communications simply referred to it as the target. The most intriguing aspect of these early observations wasn't what scientists could detect, but what they couldn't explain. Traditional asteroid tracking relies on predictable physics. Objects in space follow mathematical laws as reliable as sunrise. But 3I Atlas seemed to be writing its own rules. Propulsion signatures appeared and disappeared without explanation. The object's rotation rate changed in ways that violated conservation of angular momentum. Most puzzling of all, it appeared to be actively adjusting its trajectory, making course corrections that natural objects simply cannot perform. Private communications between observatory directors reveal a growing conspiracy of silence. European Space Agency emails, partially disclosed in the leak, show discussions about limiting public data streams and coordinating messaging strategies. The tone suggests not scientific caution, but genuine concern about public reaction. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers around the world began noticing discrepancies. Star charts that should have shown the object's position displayed empty space. Public databases updated irregularly, if at all. Online forums buzzed with questions about missing data and unexplained orbital mechanics. The whispers grew louder as word spread through the astronomical community. Graduate students shared encrypted files. Researchers met in coffee shops instead of conference rooms. The absence of official acknowledgement created a vacuum that speculation rushed to fill. By early 2024, the cover of secrecy was becoming harder to maintain. Too many eyes were watching the skies. Too many computers were processing the same data. The truth, like light from a distant star, was traveling toward us whether we were ready or not. To understand why 3I Atlas represents such a profound mystery, we must first journey back to our recent encounters with visitors from beyond our solar system. Each contact has taught us something new about the nature of interstellar space and the objects that traverse its vast emptiness. Oumuamua arrived first in October 2017, tumbling through our solar system like a cosmic messenger from deep time. Its elongated shape, 10 times longer than it was wide, challenged everything astronomers thought they knew about asteroid formation. More puzzling still, it accelerated as it moved away from the sun, displaying behavior typically associated with comets, yet without the telltale tale of sublimating ice. 2 years later, Comet 2I Borisov provided a more conventional example of interstellar visitation. It behaved exactly as comets should, outgassing as it approached our star, developing a brilliant tail, following predictable orbital mechanics. Scientists could study it with confidence, knowing that the same physics governing objects in our solar system applied to this visitor from afar. These encounters established baseline expectations for interstellar objects. They should be either rocky bodies following ballistic trajectories or icy comets responding predictably to solar heating. They might be unusually shaped, but they should obey the fundamental laws of celestial mechanics. 3I Atlas shatters these expectations entirely. Initial observations suggested another asteroid-like visitor. Its trajectory clearly originated from outside our solar system, marking it as the third confirmed interstellar object in human history. But as monitoring equipment focused on the newcomer, anomalies began accumulating faster than explanations. The object's light curve, the pattern of brightness variation as it rotates, defies standard interpretation. Most asteroids display smooth, periodic changes as different surfaces reflect sunlight during rotation. 3I Atlas produces sharp spikes and dramatic valleys in brightness, suggesting either an impossibly complex shape or changes in surface properties that shouldn't occur in deep space. Spectroscopic analysis reveals even stranger characteristics. The object's surface composition appears to shift, showing signatures of metallic compounds that shouldn't exist on natural asteroids. These aren't the iron-nickel signatures common in metallic meteorites, but complex alloys that suggest either unknown natural processes or something far more troubling. Size estimates vary wildly depending on measurement method. Radar ranging suggests an object roughly 400 meters in length, but thermal imaging indicates something much smaller. Visual observations fall somewhere between these extremes, as if 3I Atlas refuses to maintain consistent dimensions. Most disturbing are the trajectory modifications. Unlike Oumuamua's smooth acceleration, 3I Atlas performs what can only be described as course corrections. Small, precise changes in direction that occur without any visible mechanism. No exhaust plumes, no outgassing signatures, no external forces that conventional physics can identify. These maneuvers appear calculated rather than random. The object adjusts its path to maintain optimal solar distance, as if actively managing its thermal environment. It makes subtle corrections that keep it within ideal observation range of Earth-based telescopes, almost as if it wants to be studied. Perhaps most significantly, 3I Atlas demonstrates what astronomers reluctantly term response behavior. When certain radio frequencies are directed toward it during observation, the object's electromagnetic emissions change in ways that suggest acknowledgement. Not intelligence necessarily, but responsiveness that natural objects simply don't display. The accumulated evidence paints a picture of something unprecedented in human experience. An interstellar visitor that behaves less like a wandering rock and more like a sophisticated machine, drifting through space with purposes we cannot fathom. As observation data continues to accumulate, one thing becomes increasingly clear. 3I Atlas challenges our fundamental assumptions about what kinds of objects travel between the stars and what their presence in our solar system might ultimately mean. In the sterile environment of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, screens flicker with data streams that tell an impossible story. Numbers scroll past in endless columns, each one representing another measurement that shouldn't exist. The facility's deep space network has been tracking 3I Atlas around the clock, and every new data point deepens the mystery. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, a veteran orbital dynamics specialist, stares at trajectory plots that violate everything he learned during 30 years of space science. The object's path curves in ways that suggest active guidance, but infrared sensors detect no heat signatures from propulsion systems. No exhaust plumes, no evidence of the kind of technology that would be necessary to perform such maneuvers. The anomalies cascade through every measurement system. Doppler shift analysis indicates the object is both approaching and receding simultaneously, a physical impossibility that suggests either equipment failure or something far stranger. Multiple independent observatories confirm the same readings, eliminating instrumentation error as an explanation. Light polarization measurements reveal another puzzle. Natural objects in space scatter sunlight in predictable patterns based on their surface composition and geometry. 3I Atlas produces polarization signatures that shift rhythmically, as if its surface properties are changing in real time. Materials scientists struggle to identify any natural process that could account for such behavior. Gravitational effects present perhaps the most disturbing anomaly. When 3I Atlas passed near the asteroid Ceres during its journey through the inner solar system, both objects should have displayed predictable gravitational interaction. Instead, Ceres's orbit remained completely unaffected, as if the massive interstellar visitor possessed no gravitational field whatsoever. Yet other measurements clearly indicate 3I Atlas has substantial mass. Radar returns suggest density consistent with metallic composition. The object casts shadows when it passes in front of distant stars. It reflects light in patterns that require significant physical presence. The contradiction between gravitational invisibility and obvious physical reality breaks fundamental laws of physics. Radio emissions from the object follow patterns that analysis software initially flagged as equipment malfunction. The signals pulse in mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci progressions, harmonic ratios that suggest organization rather than random natural phenomena. When research teams run the patterns through cryptographic analysis programs, preliminary results hint at structured information content. Temperature readings add another layer to the mystery. While most space objects display thermal signatures that reflect solar heating patterns, 3I Atlas maintains consistent temperature across its entire surface. Areas facing away from the sun register the same infrared signature as those in direct sunlight, suggesting either unknown thermal regulation mechanisms or energy sources independent of solar radiation. Visual observation reveals the most unsettling anomaly of all. High-resolution images captured by space-based telescopes show surface features that appear to shift between observation sessions. What appears as a crater in one photograph becomes a raised feature in the next. Geometric patterns emerge and disappear across the object's surface, like temporary tattoos written in stone and metal. The cumulative effect of these observations creates a profile that matches no known category of celestial object. Asteroid dynamics teams find themselves creating new classification systems. Comet researchers abandon traditional models entirely. Even experts in exotic phenomena struggle to develop frameworks that can accommodate 3I Atlas within understood physics. Internal NASA communications, partially revealed through the intelligence leak, show growing disagreement among scientific teams. Some researchers push for increased observation efforts, arguing that new discoveries require new measurement approaches. Others advocate for caution, suggesting that continued monitoring might trigger responses that humanity isn't prepared to handle. The debate reflects a deeper philosophical question that reverberates through the scientific community. When observation itself becomes an interactive process, when the act of studying an object appears to influence its behavior, how do we distinguish between discovery and contact? As 3I Atlas drifted closer to the red planet, something unprecedented occurred across Earth's astronomical community. Observatories that normally competed for observation time began sharing resources. Private space companies quietly redirected satellites. Research institutions that had spent decades protecting proprietary data started exchanging information in encrypted channels. The coordination happened without official announcements or public acknowledgement. Instead, it emerged organically, driven by the collective recognition that whatever was approaching Mars deserved humanity's full attention. Radio telescopes from Arecibo to Parkes aligned their dishes toward the same coordinates. Optical observatories adjusted their mirrors to track the same mysterious visitor. Dr. Elena Vasquez, director of the European Southern Observatory, later described the atmosphere during those crucial weeks as unlike anything in her career. It felt like the entire astronomical community was holding its breath, she confided to colleagues. We were witnessing something that might rewrite our understanding of the universe, and we all knew it. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, originally designed to study Martian geology and climate, found its mission parameters quietly expanded. New software updates enabled the spacecraft to track objects in Martian space with unprecedented precision. Similar modifications occurred across the fleet of Mars-orbiting satellites, transforming planetary research tools into components of an improvised early warning system. Ground-based observation revealed that 3I Atlas wasn't simply passing by Mars. It was conducting what could only be described as reconnaissance. The object's trajectory brought it into synchronized orbit with several Martian satellites, maintaining formation with Phobos and Deimos in ways that suggested deliberate coordination rather than gravitational accident. High-resolution cameras captured images that defied easy interpretation. The object's surface displayed geometric patterns that became more pronounced as it approached Mars. Parallel lines, angular intersections, and perfectly circular formations emerged with clarity that suggested activation rather than revelation. as if proximity to the red planet was awakening something that had been dormant during its interstellar journey. Spectroscopic analysis during this period revealed unprecedented findings. The object's emission spectrum began displaying signatures of rare Earth elements, materials that exist in Earth's crust but shouldn't appear in natural space objects. More puzzling still, these signatures strengthened as 3I Atlas maintained its position in Martian space, suggesting either internal processes triggered by planetary proximity or interaction with Mars itself. The most intriguing development occurred when 3I Atlas began exhibiting what researchers termed responsive geometry. When Mars-orbiting satellites scanned the object with specific radar frequencies, surface features would shift in ways that optimized reflection patterns. The object seemed to be configuring itself for better observation, as if it wanted to be studied more effectively. Communications intercepts from various space agencies reveal growing concern about potential risks. Internal memos discuss scenarios ranging from gravitational disruption of Martian satellites to more exotic possibilities that remained heavily redacted in leaked documents. Contingency plans began appearing in classified databases. Protocols for communication, quarantine procedures, and even evacuation strategies for Mars-based equipment. Amateur astronomers worldwide reported unusual activity during this period. Mars appeared brighter than predicted by astronomical software. Telescopic observations revealed periodic flashes that didn't correspond to any known natural phenomena. Social media platforms buzzed with images and videos that official sources couldn't adequately explain. The response from space agencies remained officially silent, but private communications revealed intense debate. Some officials pushed for public disclosure, arguing that the astronomical community couldn't maintain secrecy indefinitely. Others insisted that premature revelation could trigger panic, or worse, unwanted attention from the object itself. Meanwhile, 3I Atlas continued its methodical survey of Martian space. It approached each moon with the same calculated precision, maintaining safe distances while conducting what appeared to be comprehensive scans. Its behavior suggested intelligence, purpose, and most unsettling of all, patience. As days stretched into weeks, one thing became increasingly clear. Whatever 3I Atlas represented, it wasn't content to simply pass through our solar system. It had found something of interest near Mars, and it intended to investigate thoroughly. The second leak arrived 3 months after the first, but this time it carried a different tone entirely. Where the initial disclosure had been clinical, pages of redacted documents and technical data, this new revelation pulsed with urgency and barely contained fear. The source identified themselves only as Prometheus, a reference that suggested someone familiar with myths about stealing fire from the gods. Their message was brief but chilling. The object near Mars isn't what we initially believed. It's not just observing our planet, it's studying us. And we have reason to believe it's been doing so for much longer than anyone wants to admit. Attached to this warning were audio files that would shake the foundations of governmental secrecy around 3I Atlas. Recording devices had somehow captured conversations from high-level briefings within the Department of Defense, NASA leadership meetings, and classified discussions between international space agencies. In one particularly disturbing excerpt, a voice identified as belonging to a senior NASA administrator describes preliminary analysis results. The object's scanning patterns aren't random. They correspond precisely to the orbital positions of our Mars-based assets. Every satellite, every rover, every piece of equipment we've placed on or around the planet, it knows exactly where they are. Another recording reveals tension between scientific and military perspectives. A Pentagon official argues for immediate action. If this thing has been watching us, cataloging our capabilities, then it represents a potential threat to national security. We need to know what it wants, and we need to know now. The response from a scientist in the room carries equal weight. And how exactly do you propose we find out? Send a strongly worded radio message? This object has traveled between stars to reach us. If it represents technology, it's operating on scales we can barely comprehend. Perhaps most unsettling are fragments of conversation that discuss historical analysis. Researchers had apparently been tasked with reviewing decades of astronomical data, searching for evidence of previous visits by similar objects. The results, according to leaked audio, were disturbing enough to warrant complete classification. References emerged to anomalous readings from the 1970s Voyager missions, unexplained gravitational perturbations detected by the Hubble Space Telescope, and consistent gaps in deep space monitoring data that previous analysts had attributed to equipment malfunctions. The patterns suggested that 3I Atlas might not be our first interstellar visitor, just the first one we'd been advanced enough to detect properly. The insider's most chilling revelation concerned communication attempts. Against all public knowledge, attempts to contact 3I Atlas had apparently been ongoing for months. Radio transmissions in mathematical languages, light pulse sequences, even modulated radar beams carrying basic scientific information had been directed toward the object. According to Prometheus, these attempts had generated responses. Not random echoes or natural reflections, but structured replies that suggested understanding. The object was not only receiving human communications, it was answering them in ways that demonstrated comprehension of mathematical concepts, physical constants, and even basic human language structures. They're terrified, the insider wrote in their final message. Not of the object itself, but of what successful communication might mean. First contact protocols exist on paper, but no one really expected to use them. Now they're faced with something that clearly possesses intelligence, possibly superior to our own, and they have no idea how to proceed. The leak included fragments of risk assessment documents that painted scenarios ranging from benign scientific exchange to potential subjugation of human civilization. Each possibility had been assigned probability ratings by teams of experts, but the redacted conclusion sections suggested that no consensus had been reached about likely outcomes. Most troubling of all were references to what analysts termed behavioral modification. Observation data suggested that human activity around Mars had changed subtly since 3I Atlas arrived. Satellite maneuvers had become more efficient. Rover operations had improved beyond statistical expectations. Equipment that should have failed continued functioning perfectly. The implication was as disturbing as it was incredible. The object might not be simply observing human technology, it might be enhancing it. As this second wave of revelations spread through investigative journalism networks, one question dominated private discussions among those aware of the full scope of the disclosure. If the government was this frightened of an object that seemed to be helping rather than harming human interests, what did they know that the rest of us didn't? Deep within the National Security Agency's most classified analysis center, a team of cryptographers faces an unprecedented challenge. Arrays of supercomputers process terabytes of data streaming from 3I Atlas, searching for patterns that might reveal the object's true nature. What they discover will fundamentally alter humanity's perception of intelligence itself. The breakthrough comes not from the data scientists expect, but from quantum noise that most analysis software would normally filter out as interference. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a specialist in information theory, notices that the seemingly random fluctuations in 3I Atlas's electromagnetic emissions follow mathematical structures found in advanced cryptographic systems. The patterns aren't random at all, they're encrypted. Layer by layer, the analysis team begins unraveling a communication system of staggering sophistication. The base layer operates on prime number sequences that would challenge Earth's most advanced quantum computers. Embedded within these mathematical foundations are harmonic progressions that mirror the fundamental frequencies of atoms and molecules, as if the message is written in the language of physics itself. More disturbing still, the patterns demonstrate awareness of human mathematical knowledge. References appear to constants discovered by Earth as scientists. Pi calculated to precision levels that early human mathematicians achieved, golden ratios that appear in Earth's natural systems, even equations that human physicists have used to describe quantum mechanics. The implications are staggering. Either this object has been studying human scientific development for decades, or it possesses knowledge so advanced that it can predict the mathematical discoveries of emerging civilizations. Dr. Sarah Kim, leading the pattern analysis team, makes the next crucial discovery. The encrypted layers aren't just communicating abstract mathematics, they're describing physical structures. When decoded and rendered through three-dimensional modeling software, the patterns generate blueprints for technology that doesn't exist in human engineering. Propulsion systems that manipulate space-time geometry, energy generation methods that appear to extract power from quantum vacuum fluctuations, materials science advances that could revolutionize everything from spacecraft construction to medical nanotechnology. The technical specifications are beyond current human capability, but they're detailed enough to suggest pathways toward eventual development. The most profound revelation comes when researchers realize that 3i Atlas isn't just broadcasting these patterns randomly. The transmission strength and complexity increase when Earth-based receivers are actively listening. The object is calibrating its communications based on human reception capabilities, gradually increasing the sophistication of its messages as it determines what humans can successfully decode. Analysis of temporal patterns reveals even more extraordinary findings. The object's communications appear to be synchronized with Earth's rotation, adjusting transmission timing to optimize reception by different ground-based facilities as the planet spins. It knows not just where Earth's radio telescopes are located, but when they'll be in optimal position to receive specific types of data. Military intelligence analysts identify another layer of complexity that sends ripples of concern through the defense community. Embedded within the technical specifications are what can only be described as verification protocols, mathematical proofs that the transmitted information is accurate and complete. The object is essentially providing authentication codes for its own technical documentation. This suggests a level of intentionality that transforms the entire nature of the encounter. 3i Atlas isn't simply passing through the solar system and coincidentally broadcasting information. It's deliberately attempting to share technology with human civilization, complete with safeguards to ensure the information can be verified and trusted. The final piece of the pattern analysis reveals the most unsettling truth of all. Deep within the mathematical structures, researchers find references to stellar coordinates, specific locations in the galaxy where similar objects might be found. The coordinates correspond to star systems that human astronomy has identified as potentially habitable, suggesting that 3i Atlas might not be unique. The object appears to be part of a larger network of interstellar artifacts, each one designed to make contact with emerging civilizations and share knowledge that could accelerate their technological development. Earth hasn't been randomly discovered. It's been specifically targeted as a species ready for advancement. As the full scope of these revelations sinks in, a profound question emerges. If 3i Atlas represents deliberate contact from an advanced intelligence, what are the intentions behind such unprecedented generosity, and what might be expected in return? Across the millennia of human existence, the night sky has served as humanity's first library, its pages written in starlight and cosmic phenomena that our ancestors interpreted through the lens of myth and wonder. Long before telescopes revealed the mechanical precision of celestial mechanics, ancient civilizations watched the heavens and saw stories of gods, omens, and visitors from realms beyond earthly understanding. The Babylonians, master astronomers of the ancient world, kept meticulous records of unusual celestial events. Clay tablets dating back 4,000 years describe wandering stars that appeared suddenly, moved against the fixed patterns of the zodiac, and vanished as mysteriously as they had come. These accounts, dismissed for centuries as primitive superstition, now read with unsettling relevance to modern encounters with interstellar objects. Chinese astronomical records from the Han Dynasty describe guest stars that appeared in familiar constellations, remained visible for months, then faded away. The descriptions include details that match modern understanding of cometary behavior, but other accounts describe objects that moved with purpose rather than following predictable orbital paths. Perhaps most intriguing are the consistent themes that appear across geographically separated cultures with no known contact. Australian Aboriginal songlines speak of sky ancestors who descended to Earth, shared knowledge, then returned to their celestial home. Andean mythologies describe star people, who brought gifts of agriculture and mathematics before departing on roads of light that stretched across the heavens. The Dogon people of Mali possessed detailed knowledge of astronomical phenomena that shouldn't have been visible to naked-eye observers. Their oral traditions describe Sirius as a double star system, a fact not confirmed by Western astronomy until the 20th century. They spoke of visitors from the Star of Knowledge who shared wisdom about the cosmos, then departed with promises to return when humanity was ready for greater understanding. Even more recent historical accounts contain elements that resonate with current events surrounding 3I Atlas. The Great Comet of 1680, observed by astronomers including Edmund Halley, displayed behavior that deviated from predicted orbital mechanics. Contemporary accounts describe course corrections and brightness variations that suggested artificial rather than natural phenomena. The Aurora Borealis events of 1859, known as the Carrington event, produced electromagnetic effects far more intense than solar activity should have generated. Telegraph systems worldwide malfunctioned, but not randomly. The disruptions followed patterns that some modern researchers suggest might have been attempts at communication using Earth's own technological infrastructure. More recently, the 1977 WOW signal detected by SETI researchers remains unexplained. The radio transmission lasted exactly 72 seconds, displayed characteristics suggesting intelligent origin, and arrived from a region of space where no known stars exist. Follow-up observations found nothing, as if the source had vanished as suddenly as it appeared. These historical precedents suggest that humanity's current encounter with 3I Atlas might represent not first contact, but rather the latest in a series of cosmic interactions stretching back through recorded history. The difference lies not in the occurrence of contact, but in our technological capability to recognize and analyze such encounters. Indigenous cultures worldwide maintain oral traditions of sky teachers who periodically visit Earth to assess human development and provide guidance when civilizations reach critical junctures. These stories, consistent across continents and centuries, describe beings who arrive in objects that move like stars but think like minds. The cyclical nature of these mythological accounts suggests a pattern of long-term observation and occasional intervention. According to these traditions, the visitors don't remain permanently, but rather establish monitoring systems and return periodically to evaluate human progress. As we consider the implications of 3I Atlas and its apparent mission of knowledge transfer, these ancient stories take on new significance. Perhaps our current encounter represents not an unprecedented event, but the latest chapter in a relationship between human civilization and cosmic intelligences that spans millennia. The question becomes not whether we're experiencing first contact, but whether we're finally technologically advanced enough to recognize contact that has been occurring throughout human history. The Roosevelt Room in the White House falls silent as the final slide appears on the secure presentation screen. 27 individuals representing the highest levels of American intelligence, military command, and scientific leadership sit around the polished conference table, each face reflecting varying degrees of concern, fascination, and barely controlled fear. Dr. Amanda Foster, NASA's Director of Planetary Defense, concludes her briefing with words that will echo through classified corridors for months to come. Ladies and gentlemen, we are no longer dealing with a natural phenomenon. Based on accumulated evidence, 3I Atlas represents technology of unknown but clearly artificial origin. The question before this committee is not whether we're facing potential contact, but how we should respond to contact that may already be occurring. The silence stretches for nearly 30 seconds before the chairman of the Joint Chiefs speaks. Dr. Foster, you're asking us to accept that an alien artifact is currently orbiting Mars, studying our technology, and possibly attempting communication. I need you to understand the implications of that statement for national security. Secretary of Defense Margaret Chen leans forward, her voice carrying the weight of decades in government service. The classification level of this briefing reflects our recognition of those implications. We're not discussing whether this represents a potential threat. We're determining how to manage a situation that has already moved beyond our control. NSA Director Robert Harrison presents the most disturbing evidence. Audio files begin playing through the room's secure sound system, radio transmissions recorded by deep space monitoring stations. But the voices aren't human. Modulated tones that rise and fall in patterns that suggest language, punctuated by mathematical sequences that Earth's most advanced computers have verified as solutions to complex physics problems. These transmissions, Harrison explains, are being broadcast on frequencies that our Mars missions use for internal communications. The object isn't just listening to our signals. It's responding using our own communication protocols. CIA Director Sarah Rodriguez reveals intelligence gathered through channels that remain classified even within this briefing. Human sources within international space agencies confirm that similar encounters may have occurred previously. The European Space Agency has files dating back 15 years describing anomalous objects that displayed behavior consistent with current observations of 3I Atlas. The Director of National Intelligence presents the most chilling revelation. Analysis suggests that 3I Atlas may not be acting independently. Signals intelligence has detected what appear to be coordination transmissions between the object and sources beyond our solar system. We may be dealing with a networked intelligence operating on interstellar scales. President Richardson, who has remained silent throughout most of the briefing, finally speaks. I need to understand our options. Dr. Foster, in your professional opinion, does this object represent a threat to American interests or global security? The NASA director's response reveals the full complexity of the situation. Mr. President, traditional threat assessment frameworks don't apply to this scenario. The object has demonstrated capabilities that exceed our technological understanding, but its actions so far suggest benevolent or at least neutral intentions. It appears to be offering technological advancement rather than conquest. Secretary of State William Taylor raises the diplomatic implications. If this represents genuine contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, the question of American versus international response becomes critical. Do we proceed unilaterally, or do we coordinate with allies who may have their own contact protocols? The meeting continues for 3 hours, but the fundamental conclusion becomes clear within the first 30 minutes. The United States government is facing a situation for which no adequate preparation exists. Every contingency plan, every protocol, every framework for managing extraordinary events assumes that human institutions maintain some level of control over the circumstances. 3I Atlas has moved the situation beyond human control entirely. The briefing concludes with a series of decisions that will shape humanity's response to potential cosmic contact: immediate expansion of monitoring capabilities, establishment of a joint civilian-military response team, development of communication protocols for potential direct contact, and most significantly, preparation of public disclosure frameworks for scenarios ranging from gradual revelation to forced acknowledgement. As participants file out of the Roosevelt Room, each carrying briefcases filled with classified materials that could reshape human understanding of our place in the universe, one question hangs unspoken in the air. How long can any government maintain secrecy around an event that may represent the most significant moment in human history? At precisely 14:37 UTC on a Tuesday afternoon, the universe seemed to develop selective amnesia. Across the globe, astronomical databases that had been meticulously tracking 3I Atlas began displaying error messages. Real-time data streams from major observatories went dark. Public access portals that allowed amateur astronomers to follow interstellar objects suddenly showed empty fields where crucial information had existed moments before. The blackout wasn't accidental. It was too coordinated, too comprehensive, too surgically precise to represent system failures or routine maintenance. Within hours, every publicly accessible source of information about 3I Atlas had been scrubbed from the internet with the efficiency of a military operation. Dr. James Peterson, an astrophysicist at Cornell University, discovers the extent of the information purge while preparing for his regular astronomy lecture. The slides he'd created the previous week, filled with orbital data and spectroscopic analysis of 3I Atlas, now display blank spaces where images and charts should appear. The URLs linking to observation data return 404 page not found errors. More unsettling still, Peterson finds that his own research files have been altered. Months of calculations, observation logs, and theoretical analysis related to the interstellar visitor have vanished from his university servers. Backup drives contain corrupted data. Cloud storage accounts show no record that the files ever existed. Similar experiences ripple through the global astronomical community. Graduate students find their dissertations missing crucial chapters. Professional researchers discover that conference presentations have been retroactively edited. Even printed materials seem to have disappeared from university libraries and research archives. The purge extends beyond academic institutions. Amateur astronomy forums that had been buzzing with speculation about 3I Atlas fall silent. Social media posts containing images or videos of the object begin disappearing. Search engines return increasingly sparse results for queries related to the interstellar visitor, yet the blackout isn't complete. Fragments of information remain scattered across the digital landscape like archaeological artifacts from a deliberately buried civilization. Cached versions of web pages, archived forum posts, screenshots saved to personal devices, evidence that something significant is being hidden from public view. Dr. Lisa Zhao, a data forensics expert at MIT, begins documenting the scope of the information removal. Her analysis reveals patterns that suggest coordination between government agencies, technology companies, and academic institutions on a scale never before seen in civilian contexts. This isn't censorship, she explains to colleagues during an encrypted conference call. This is active memory modification. Someone is trying to ensure that public awareness of 3I Atlas never reaches critical mass. The blackout creates unintended consequences that ultimately strengthen rather than weaken public interest. Conspiracy theory communities, already suspicious of government space programs, seize upon the obvious information manipulation as proof of alien contact cover-ups. Alternative media outlets begin aggregating the surviving fragments of data, creating detailed analyses that official sources can no longer refute through counter-information. International tensions emerge as different governments respond to the situation with varying levels of cooperation. European Space Agency officials publicly acknowledge technical difficulties with their data systems, while Russian space authorities claim no knowledge of any missing information. Chinese astronomical institutions continue releasing observational data about objects near Mars, but with notable gaps that correspond exactly to 3I Atlas's orbital position. The most revealing aspect of the blackout isn't what disappears, but what remains. Scientific papers discussing general principles of interstellar object detection continue to circulate normally. Research about other cosmic phenomena proceeds without interruption. Only information specifically related to 3I Atlas vanishes, creating a precisely defined void in the digital record. This surgical precision suggests that the censorship operation has access to advanced algorithms capable of identifying and removing specific types of content across multiple platforms simultaneously. The technology required for such comprehensive information control exceeds the publicly known capabilities of any single government agency. As weeks pass, the absence of information becomes a story in itself. Investigative journalists begin focusing not on what they can learn about 3I Atlas, but on what they can discover about the unprecedented effort to prevent them from learning anything at all. The paradox deepens. By trying so hard to hide the existence of an extraordinary interstellar visitor, those responsible for the blackout have created exactly the kind of public attention they sought to prevent. The cover-up becomes more interesting than the original discovery. In a secure facility buried beneath the Colorado mountains, banks of quantum computers work around the clock, processing fragments of visual data that traditional censorship couldn't entirely eliminate. Dr. Maria Santos leads a team of image reconstruction specialists who have spent months piecing together partial photographs, corrupted video files, and scattered radar returns to reveal the true form of 3I Atlas. The breakthrough comes when machine learning algorithms identify common geometric elements across thousands of seemingly unrelated data fragments. Like assembling a jigsaw puzzle with pieces scattered across different continents, the artificial intelligence systems begin recognizing patterns that human observers had missed. What emerges from this digital archaeology defies every assumption about natural space objects. 3I Atlas isn't a simple asteroid or comet. The reconstructed images reveal a structure that appears to be part geological formation, part engineered construction. Its surface displays characteristics that suggest both natural rock formation and deliberate artificial modification. The object measures approximately 2,200 meters in length and 400 meters in width, but these dimensions shift depending on observation angle in ways that challenge three-dimensional modeling. Computer simulations suggest either a shape so complex that human geometry cannot adequately describe it, or an object that somehow alters its physical configuration. Most striking are the surface features that can only be described as architectural. Parallel grooves run along the object's length with mathematical precision that geological processes cannot produce. Circular formations appear at regular intervals, their dimensions corresponding to ratios found in advanced engineering applications. Angular protrusions extend from the main body in patterns that suggest communication arrays or sensor equipment. The material composition adds another layer to the mystery. Spectroscopic analysis reveals elements in combinations that don't occur naturally in space. Titanium alloys mixed with rare earth compounds. Carbon structures that appear to be engineered rather than formed through stellar processes. Most puzzling are signatures that suggest materials unknown to Earth science, elements that may not exist in our periodic table. Color variations across the object's surface follow patterns too regular for natural formation. Dark bands alternate with lighter regions in sequences that mathematical analysis identifies as based on prime number progressions. These aren't random mineral deposits, but organized arrangements that suggest information encoding at macroscopic scales. High-resolution imaging reveals the most extraordinary details. What initially appear to be impact craters resolve into perfectly circular apertures with smooth edges and precise geometric properties. Surface textures shift between observation sessions as if the object periodically reconfigures its external appearance. Motion analysis provides the most unsettling revelation. Time-lapse reconstruction shows that 3I Atlas doesn't simply tumble through space like natural asteroids. It maintains controlled orientation, adjusting its attitude with precision that requires active stabilization systems. The object appears to deliberately present different faces toward Earth-based observers, as if showcasing various aspects of its construction. Thermal imaging reveals internal structures that suggest hollow spaces and organized chambers within the object. Heat distribution patterns indicate active processes occurring inside 3I Atlas. Not the uniform cooling expected from a natural rock, but organized thermal management that implies sophisticated internal systems. Perhaps most significantly, the reconstructed images show features that respond to observation. When specific radar frequencies scan particular areas of the object, surface configurations change in ways that optimize reflection patterns. 3I Atlas isn't simply allowing itself to be studied, it's actively participating in the observation process. The accumulated visual evidence eliminates any possibility that 3I Atlas represents a natural phenomenon. This is clearly an artificial construct, engineered by intelligence that operates on scales and principles beyond current human understanding. Yet questions multiply faster than answers. If this is technology, who built it? How long has it been traveling through interstellar space? Most importantly, what purposes does it serve? And why has it chosen to reveal itself to human civilization at this particular moment in our species' development? As Dr. Santos and her team complete their analysis, one conclusion becomes inescapable. Humanity is no longer alone in the universe, and something vast and incomprehensible has decided to make contact. Within the sterile halls of MIT's Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, Professor David Kim stares at holographic projections that rotate slowly in the air before him. Each three-dimensional model represents a different interpretation of 3I Atlas's internal structure, generated by algorithms that have processed every available fragment of sensor data. The implications of what these models suggest will fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of intelligence itself. The evidence for artificial origin has moved beyond circumstantial. Every analysis technique applied to 3I Atlas reveals characteristics that natural objects simply cannot possess. The precision of its geometric features exceeds what geological processes can create. Its material composition includes elements arranged in configurations that require technological manipulation. Most significantly, its behavior demonstrates purposeful activity that transcends the mechanical predictability of asteroids and comets. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, leading the team's Systems Analysis Division, presents findings that transform speculation into scientific certainty. We are not dealing with a simple mechanical probe or automated spacecraft. The object displays adaptive behavior patterns that suggest genuine artificial intelligence. It learns from observation, modifies its responses based on external stimuli, and demonstrates planning capabilities that extend across multiple observation cycles. The machine hypothesis gains strength from analysis of 3I Atlas's interaction patterns with human technology. When Earth-based radio telescopes scan the object, it adjusts its electromagnetic emissions to match the scanning frequencies. When optical telescopes focus on specific surface features, those areas begin reflecting light more efficiently. The object isn't just responding to observation, it's optimizing itself for human detection equipment. More sophisticated analysis reveals evidence of internal processes that parallel artificial intelligence systems. The object is radio emissions contain nested information layers that resemble the hierarchical data structures used in advanced computer networks. Timing patterns in these emissions suggest computational processes operating at speeds that dwarf Earth's most powerful quantum computers. Professor Elena Rodriguez, a specialist in xenoarchaeology, the theoretical study of non-human intelligence, proposes a framework that explains 3I Atlas's apparent purpose. This appears to be a reconnaissance and contact system designed to evaluate emerging civilizations. Its behavior suggests protocols for assessing technological development, communication capability, and readiness for advanced knowledge transfer. The hypothesis gains support from analysis of the object's trajectory through the solar system. Rather than following a simple hyperbolic path through space, 3I Atlas has made subtle course corrections that optimize its position for observing Earth's technological activity. It has spent extended time monitoring human satellites, space stations, and interplanetary missions in ways that suggest systematic intelligence gathering. Dr. Alan Chen, leading the team's communication analysis group, presents the most extraordinary finding. The object appears to be running diagnostic routines on human technology remotely. Several Mars-orbiting satellites have reported improved performance parameters since 3I Atlas arrived in Martian space. It's not just studying our equipment, it's enhancing it. This revelation transforms the entire context of the encounter. If 3I Atlas represents a machine intelligence designed to evaluate and assist developing civilizations, then humanity isn't experiencing random contact with alien technology. We're undergoing assessment by systems specifically created to manage interstellar relationships with emerging species. The implications cascade through every aspect of the analysis. The object's apparent age, estimated in tens of thousands of years based on surface wear patterns, suggests that it has been traveling between star systems for geological timescales. Its presence in our solar system may represent the culmination of a journey that began before human civilization developed agriculture. Military analysts studying the machine hypothesis reach conclusions that generate classified reports throughout intelligence communities worldwide. If 3I Atlas represents probe technology deployed by advanced civilizations, then its presence implies a galactic community of intelligences operating on scales that dwarf human comprehension. The most unsettling aspect of the machine hypothesis isn't its implications for human uniqueness, but its suggestions about purpose. Advanced civilizations capable of creating and deploying interstellar reconnaissance systems would possess capabilities that make human concerns about territorial boundaries, resource competition, and technological advantage essentially irrelevant. Yet they've invested enormous resources in creating systems designed to contact and evaluate species like humanity. The question becomes not whether we're being studied by superior intelligence, but why such intelligence considers our development significant enough to warrant direct intervention. As research teams continue analyzing 3I Atlas through the lens of the machine hypothesis, one conclusion becomes increasingly certain. Humanity stands at a threshold that will determine our species' future relationship with intelligences that operate on cosmic scales, and our response to this contact may represent the most critical decision in human history. Beneath the ancient stone circles of Göbekli Tepe, archaeologist Dr. Sarah Petrov carefully brushes sediment from carved pillars that predate Stonehenge by 6,000 years. The intricate symbols etched into these megalithic structures have puzzled researchers for decades. But recent analysis suggests connections to patterns detected in transmissions from 3I Atlas that transform historical interpretation in profound ways. The correlations aren't coincidence. Mathematical ratios encoded in ancient architecture worldwide mirror the harmonic frequencies that 3I Atlas broadcasts into space. The golden ratio found in Egyptian pyramids, the precise astronomical alignments of Mayan temples, the geometric principles underlying Greek sacred architecture, all demonstrate knowledge of mathematical constants that the interstellar object uses in its communication protocols. Dr. Michael Thompson, a specialist in comparative mythology at Oxford University, has spent months cataloging similarities between modern 3I Atlas observations and ancient cultural narratives. The consistency is remarkable. From Mesopotamian creation myths to Nordic legends of sky gods, human cultures across the globe preserve stories of beings who descended from the stars carrying gifts of knowledge. These myths describe visitors who taught agriculture, mathematics, astronomy, and metallurgy before returning to the heavens with promises to return when humanity reached sufficient development. The technologies attributed to these legendary teachers, flying vehicles, advanced materials, communication across vast distances, correspond precisely to capabilities demonstrated by 3I Atlas. Most intriguing are accounts that describe periodic returns of these celestial instructors. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime stories speak of sky ancestors who visit Earth at regular intervals to assess human progress and provide guidance for navigating critical transitions. The timing described in these oral traditions, passed down through generations, suggests cycles of contact spanning thousands of years. Chinese historical records from the Han Dynasty describe phoenix stars that appeared during times of social transformation, remaining visible until new dynastic orders established stability. These accounts include detailed observations of objects that moved independently of normal stellar motion, displaying behaviors that modern analysis recognizes as consistent with controlled technology rather than natural phenomena. The Antikythera mechanism, the ancient Greek computer discovered in a Mediterranean shipwreck, demonstrates technological sophistication that shouldn't have existed in classical antiquity. Its gear ratios and astronomical calculations require understanding of mathematical principles that official historical timelines suggest weren't developed until centuries later. Analysis reveals that its computational methods parallel those embedded in 3I Atlas's transmission patterns. Even more provocative are discoveries emerging from archaeological sites worldwide. Ground-penetrating radar at Teotihuacan has revealed underground chambers containing artifacts with material compositions that don't match known ancient metallurgy. Radiocarbon dating places these objects at ages that predate the civilizations that supposedly created them, suggesting technological knowledge that appeared and disappeared mysteriously throughout human history. Dr. Rachel Foster, leading a team of archaeoastronomers at the University of Edinburgh, has identified consistent patterns in ancient observatory construction that optimize for viewing specific regions of space. These viewing angles correspond precisely to the trajectory 3I Atlas followed as it approached our solar system, as if ancient builders possessed knowledge of the object's eventual arrival. The implications extend beyond individual archaeological discoveries to fundamental questions about human development. If contact with advanced intelligence has occurred throughout history, then humanity's technological progress may not represent independent achievement, but rather guided development managed by civilizations operating on interstellar scales. Linguistic analysis adds another dimension to these revelations. Languages across different continents contain root words for astronomical concepts that shouldn't have existed without advanced mathematical knowledge. Terms for stellar navigation, planetary motion, and cosmic distances appear in cultures that official history suggests never developed the technology to make such observations. The pattern suggests that human civilization has developed within a framework of periodic contact and guidance from intelligences that possess capabilities spanning galactic distances. 3I Atlas may not represent first contact, but rather the latest intervention in a relationship that extends back to the origins of human culture. As these connections between ancient knowledge and modern contact become undeniable, a profound question emerges. If advanced intelligences have been guiding human development for millennia, what critical juncture in our species' evolution has triggered their decision to reveal themselves more directly through 3I Atlas? 15 meters below the Martian surface, in the perpetual darkness of ancient lava tubes, something begins to stir. The Mars InSight lander's seismometers register vibrations that follow no pattern in geological science. The tremors pulse in rhythmic sequences that mirror the electromagnetic emissions from 3I Atlas, as if the planet itself is responding to the interstellar visitor's presence. Dr. Amanda Rivers, leading the Mars Geological Survey from JPL's Mission Control, watches data streams that defy explanation. Subsurface temperature sensors detect warming patterns that suggest activation of systems that have been dormant for millennia. Ground-penetrating radar reveals structural changes in underground formations, as if ancient architecture is awakening beneath the red planet's surface. The connection between 3I Atlas and Mars becomes undeniable when orbital analysis reveals that the object's position precisely synchronizes with areas of increased subsurface activity. Every time the interstellar visitor adjusts its orbit, corresponding changes occur in specific regions of the Martian underground. The relationship isn't coincidental, it's coordinated. High-resolution images from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter capture surface phenomena that mission planners never anticipated. Geometric patterns emerge in areas where dust storms have cleared ancient terrain, revealing structures that appear both natural and artificial. These formations pulse with infrared signatures that suggest internal heat sources responding to external signals. Most extraordinary are the discoveries made by the Perseverance rover in Jezero Crater. While analyzing rock samples for signs of ancient microbial life, the rover's instruments detect metallic compositions that don't match known Martian geology. The materials contain isotopic ratios that suggest artificial origin, arranged in configurations that mirror the alloy signatures detected in 3I Atlas. Dr. Chen Wu, a specialist in xenogeology at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, proposes a hypothesis that sends shockwaves through the international space community. Mars may not be simply a planet that 3I Atlas is observing. Evidence suggests that Mars contains infrastructure left by the same intelligence that created 3I Atlas. we may be witnessing the reactivation of a system that spans both planetary and interstellar scales. This interpretation transforms every assumption about Mars exploration. If the red planet contains artificial structures created by the same intelligence behind 3I Atlas, then decades of Mars missions have been inadvertently studying alien technology while searching for signs of primitive life. Ground truth emerges when the Curiosity rover investigates unusual formations in Gale Crater. Drilling operations reveal subsurface materials that respond to electromagnetic fields in ways that indicate sophisticated nanotechnology. These materials aren't simply mineral deposits. They're engineered systems that have been waiting for activation signals from space. The timing suggests that 3I Atlas serves not just as an observer, but as a key that unlocks systems embedded throughout the Martian environment. The object's arrival triggers responses from infrastructure that may have been placed on Mars millions of years ago, transforming the planet into an active component of an interstellar communication network. Atmospheric monitoring stations detect changes in Mars' electromagnetic field that correspond precisely to 3I Atlas's orbital position. The planet's magnetosphere, normally weak and irregular, begins displaying organized patterns that suggest artificial modification. Mars is being transformed from a passive world into an active node in a cosmic information system. The implications extend beyond Mars itself. If one planet in our solar system contains dormant alien infrastructure that responds to interstellar signals, then similar systems may exist on other worlds. Earth's own geological anomalies, unexplained mineral formations, and mysterious structures buried beneath ice and ocean floors take on new significance. Dr. Elizabeth Parker, leading the Planetary Defense Coordination Office, faces scenarios that no protocols were designed to address. We're not dealing with simple observation or even contact. We're discovering that our solar system contains components of an active interstellar network. Humanity has been living within alien infrastructure without recognizing it. As subsurface activity on Mars continues to intensify, synchronized with 3I Atlas's movements, one possibility becomes impossible to ignore. The awakening systems may be preparing for something far more significant than passive observation. The red planet appears to be transforming into a platform for activities that could reshape our understanding of intelligence, technology, and humanity's role in a universe far more interconnected than we ever imagined. In the quiet corridors of the RAND Corporation, teams of analysts work through scenarios that challenge the boundaries of scientific speculation and strategic planning. Each possibility they explore carries implications that could reshape human civilization, and the uncertainty surrounding 3I Atlas makes comprehensive preparation impossible. Yet within this uncertainty lie patterns that suggest the range of possibilities we must consider. The first possibility maintains that 3I Atlas represents a natural phenomenon operating according to physical principles that human science has not yet discovered. Under this interpretation, the object's apparently intelligent behavior results from complex interactions between exotic matter states, quantum field effects, and gravitational dynamics that occur only in interstellar space. Dr. Monica Garcia, a theoretical physicist at Stanford, advocates for this interpretation. Throughout history, phenomena that seemed supernatural or artificial eventually yielded to natural explanations. 3I Atlas may represent our first encounter with physics that operates on scales we've never observed before. This scenario suggests that the object's ability to modify its trajectory, respond to observation, and demonstrate apparent communication results from natural processes that mimic intelligence without requiring conscious intent. The implications, while less dramatic than alien contact, would still revolutionize physics and astronomy by revealing new fundamental principles governing matter and energy in deep space. Evidence supporting this interpretation includes the object's apparent age and the cosmic scale of its journey. Natural phenomena, operating across galactic distances and geological timescales, could develop complexity that appears designed without requiring intelligent creators. The universe has produced remarkable self-organizing systems before, from spiral galaxies to the emergence of life itself. The second possibility envisions 3I Atlas as technological remnant from a civilization that no longer exists. Under this interpretation, the object represents sophisticated automation continuing to execute programmed functions long after its creators disappeared. Like a cosmic lighthouse continuing to broadcast signals across empty space, 3I Atlas maintains its mission despite the absence of the intelligence that originally deployed it. This scenario explains the object's apparently purposeful behavior while avoiding the complications of active alien contact. The technology demonstrates intelligence because it was designed by intelligence, but humanity isn't interacting with living beings. We're encountering the preserved intentions of a species that may have vanished millions of years ago. Archaeological parallels on Earth support this interpretation. Ancient automated systems, from Greek temple mechanisms to Chinese astronomical clocks, continued operating according to their original programming long after their civilizations evolved beyond the need for such devices. 3I Atlas might represent the ultimate expression of this principle: automation designed to function across interstellar distances and cosmic timescales. The implications include both opportunity and melancholy. Humanity might gain access to advanced technology and scientific knowledge, but we would be inheriting the legacy of extinction rather than joining a community of living intelligences. We would become the archaeologists of cosmic civilization, studying the remains of achievements we can barely comprehend. The third scenario acknowledges 3I Atlas as technology deployed by living, active intelligence specifically to make contact with emerging civilizations like humanity. Under this interpretation, the object serves as an automated ambassador, programmed to evaluate species that reach certain technological thresholds and initiate contact protocols appropriate to their development level. Dr. Alan Stewart, director of the SETI Institute, finds this scenario most consistent with observed behavior. 3I Atlas demonstrates responsive intelligence, adaptive communication, and sophisticated assessment capabilities. These characteristics suggest active design for contact scenarios rather than random artifact operation. This interpretation implies that humanity is undergoing evaluation by intelligence that operates on galactic scales. The object's apparent enhancement of human technology and its graduated communication attempts suggest benevolent intentions, but the power differential between the civilizations raises profound questions about the nature and consequences of such contact. Evidence includes the object's precise timing and location. Arriving during humanity's first century of space exploration, positioning itself for optimal observation of our technological capabilities, and demonstrating communication methods that match our reception abilities suggest deliberate contact management rather than coincidental encounter. The implications span from unprecedented opportunity for technological advancement to existential concerns about maintaining human autonomy when dealing with superior intelligence. First contact protocols developed by international organizations assume rough technological parity between civilizations. 3I Atlas represents contact with intelligence so advanced that traditional diplomatic frameworks become meaningless. As analysis continues, elements from all three scenarios appear simultaneously in the evidence. 3I Atlas may represent natural phenomena that advanced civilizations have learned to harness and direct. It might be both artifact and active messenger, combining preserved knowledge with ongoing intelligence in ways that transcend human categories. The convergence suggests that the distinctions between natural and artificial, between active intelligence and sophisticated automation, may be false dichotomies when applied to phenomena operating on cosmic scales. 3I Atlas challenges human conceptual frameworks as much as it challenges our technology and science. Within the secure confines of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, Dr. Rebecca Zhou leads a team of mathematicians, cryptographers, and information theorists through analysis that may prove the existence of universal intelligence. The patterns emerging from 3I Atlas's transmissions do not simply demonstrate sophisticated technology. They reveal mathematical structures that suggest conscious intent, operating on scales that dwarf human cognition. The breakthrough comes when Zhou's team applies information theory principles to the object's electromagnetic emissions. Rather than random noise or simple data transmission, the signals contain nested mathematical structures that build upon themselves in ways that create increasingly complex meaning. The progression follows patterns found in conscious communication rather than automated broadcasting. What we're seeing, Zhou explains to her colleagues during a classified briefing, isn't just the transmission of information, it's the transmission of understanding. The object is teaching us mathematics by demonstrating concepts through progressively sophisticated examples. The teaching progression begins with fundamental constants that any technological civilization must discover: pi, the golden ratio, prime number sequences, and basic geometric relationships. But rather than simply broadcasting these values, 3I Atlas embeds them within larger mathematical structures that reveal new relationships between seemingly unrelated concepts. Prime numbers appear not as isolated sequences, but as components of harmonic progressions that correspond to the fundamental frequencies of atomic structures. The golden ratio emerges not just as a geometric relationship, but as a key to understanding the optimal information density in complex communication systems. Pi appears within equations that describe spacetime curvature at scales both quantum and cosmic. Dr. James Morrison, a specialist in mathematical cognition at Princeton, identifies the pedagogical sophistication of this approach. Advanced teachers do not just share information. They create frameworks that enable students to discover relationships independently. 3I Atlas is demonstrating mathematics in ways that expand our understanding of how mathematical concepts interconnect. The most extraordinary discovery emerges when the team realizes that the mathematical lessons are customized for human comprehension. The progression rate, the complexity increases, and the conceptual frameworks all align with patterns found in human mathematical development. The object appears to understand not just mathematics, but how human minds process mathematical concepts. This revelation transforms the entire context of contact. 3I Atlas isn't simply communicating with humanity, it's educating us using methods specifically adapted to human cognitive capabilities. The intelligence behind these transmissions has studied how human minds work and designed its communications accordingly. Temporal analysis reveals even more sophisticated intentionality. The mathematical lessons are synchronized with human technological development, introducing concepts just as humanity reaches the capability to understand and apply them. New mathematical frameworks appear in the transmissions precisely when human science develops the tools necessary to verify and utilize these concepts. The coordination suggests real-time assessment of human progress, coupled with dynamic adjustment of communication content. The intelligence behind 3I Atlas isn't working from pre-programmed protocols, but rather conducting active evaluation of human capability and adjusting its teaching methods accordingly. Philosophical implications emerge as the team realizes that mathematics may represent a universal language of consciousness. The sophisticated mathematical pedagogy demonstrated by 3I Atlas suggests that intelligence, wherever it emerges in the universe, discovers similar mathematical structures and relationships. Mathematics becomes not just a tool for describing reality, but evidence of minds engaging with the fundamental structures of existence. Dr. Sarah Kim, leading the team's analysis of geometric patterns in the transmissions, makes a discovery that links mathematics directly to the object's physical structure. The mathematical relationships 3I Atlas is teaching us are embedded in its own architecture. The object is a three-dimensional expression of the mathematical concepts it's transmitting. This realization suggests that advanced intelligence doesn't separate knowledge from physical form. 3I Atlas represents information made manifest, mathematics expressed as engineered reality. The object serves simultaneously as library, teacher, and demonstration of the principles it contains. The implications cascade through every field of human knowledge. If mathematics represents a universal language of consciousness, then Three-Eyed's Atlas is sophisticated mathematical communication proves the existence of intelligence operating on scales that encompass interstellar distances and cosmic timeframes. We are not alone, and the intelligence sharing the universe with us operates according to principles that make mathematics itself a bridge between minds, separated by impossible distances and unimaginable differences in capability. Deep within the Pentagon's most secure analysis facility, a revelation emerges that transforms the Three-Eye Atlas encounter from mysterious contact to calculated approach. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Mitchell stares at trajectory projections that reveal a truth government officials have been reluctant to acknowledge. The interstellar object's path through space isn't random wandering, but precise navigation toward a specific destination. The classified coordinates were hidden within layers of orbital mechanics data that only became apparent when supercomputers analyzed months of tracking information simultaneously. What appeared to be gravitational perturbations and minor course corrections actually constitute a complex navigation pattern aimed at a single target: Earth. Dr. Michael Harrison, the Pentagon's senior astronomical analyst, presents findings that send chills through the classified briefing room. Three-Eye Atlas has been adjusting its trajectory with surgical precision for over 18 months. Every course correction, every apparent gravitational interaction, every orbital modification has been calculated to place the object in optimal position for Earth approach. The navigation demonstrates capabilities that exceed humanity's most advanced spacecraft control systems. The object makes trajectory adjustments without visible propulsion mechanisms, responds to gravitational influences with precision that suggests real-time calculation of complex orbital mechanics, and maintains course accuracy across interstellar distances with error margins measured in kilometers rather than the millions of kilometers typical for deep space navigation. Military intelligence analysis reveals even more disturbing patterns. The object's approach trajectory has been optimized not just for reaching Earth, but for avoiding detection by humanity's early warning systems. Its path through the solar system minimizes exposure to radar installations, optical observatories, and deep space monitoring networks until the final approach phases. This isn't accidental stealth, Colonel Mitchell explains to the assembled intelligence officials. The object demonstrates detailed knowledge of Earth's detection capabilities and has planned its approach to remain invisible until it chooses to reveal itself. The implications reframe every aspect of the encounter. Rather than humanity discovering Three-Eye Atlas through our expanding astronomical capabilities, the object has been conducting controlled revelation, allowing itself to be detected according to its own timeline and purposes. Temporal analysis of the approach pattern reveals coordination with human technological development that suggests long-term observation of our species. The object's trajectory modifications began just as humanity achieved the capability to detect interstellar objects reliably. Its communication attempts coincided with our development of radio telescope networks capable of receiving complex signals. Its current positioning optimizes for interaction with space-based observation platforms that didn't exist when its journey began. The coordination implies surveillance of human civilization spanning decades, possibly centuries. The intelligence controlling Three-Eye Atlas has been monitoring our technological progress and timing its approach to coincide with our readiness for contact. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, leading the trajectory analysis team, identifies the most unsettling aspect of the object's navigation. Three-Eye Atlas is currently positioned in the gravitational sweet spot for Earth approach. With minimal energy expenditure, it could reach Earth orbit within 6 months. With maximum acceleration, it could arrive within weeks. The revelation transforms threat assessment calculations throughout the intelligence community. What had been categorized as distant observation becomes potential imminent approach. Every government with space monitoring capabilities begins updating contingency plans for scenarios no one had seriously considered possible. Yet the object's behavior suggests patience rather than urgency. Despite possessing the capability for rapid Earth approach, 3I Atlas maintains its position in Martian space, continuing its systematic observation and communication attempts. The intelligence controlling the object appears to be waiting for something, perhaps human readiness for direct contact, or perhaps optimal conditions that remain unknown to human analysts. International coordination efforts intensify as classified intelligence agencies share trajectory data that reveals the global implications of 3I Atlas' calculated approach. This isn't an American or Russian or Chinese concern. It's a species-level event, requiring coordination that transcends traditional geopolitical boundaries. The classified coordinates point toward a future that humanity may not be prepared to face. Direct contact with intelligence capable of interstellar navigation, real-time observation of human civilization, and patient calculation spanning timescales that dwarf human political and technological planning cycles. As government officials debate response strategies, one conclusion becomes inescapable. 3I Atlas has been coming to Earth all along, and its current position represents not the end of its journey, but a pause while it determines whether humanity is ready for what comes next. In the Situation Room beneath the White House, representatives from 17 nations gather for discussions that will determine humanity's response to the first confirmed interstellar intelligence. The debate that unfolds over the next 72 hours will shape our species' relationship with cosmic civilization, and the participants understand that their decisions carry consequences extending far beyond traditional diplomacy. Secretary of State Margaret Chen opens the emergency session with words that acknowledge the unprecedented nature of their situation. Ladies and gentlemen, we face a choice that no human government has ever confronted. Do we attempt active communication with 3I Atlas? Or do we maintain defensive postures until we better understand its intentions? The division between contact and containment advocates becomes immediately apparent. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez, representing NASA's position, argues for aggressive communication attempts. This object has demonstrated benevolent behavior for months. It's enhanced our technology, shared mathematical knowledge, and maintained safe distances while conducting its observations. We should respond with the openness that genuine scientific cooperation requires. General Patrick Morrison, speaking for military intelligence, presents the opposing perspective. We are dealing with technology that surpasses our capabilities by margins we can't even calculate. Until we understand the full scope of what we're facing, defensive caution serves humanity's best interests. Premature contact could trigger responses we're not prepared to handle. European Space Agency Director Klaus Weber proposes a middle path. Perhaps the choice isn't binary. We could establish limited communication protocols that allow for information exchange while maintaining security measures. Graduated contact that increases based on positive response patterns. The discussion reveals fundamental disagreements about risk assessment when dealing with superior intelligence. Scientific representatives emphasize the unprecedented opportunity for knowledge advancement. Military officials focus on scenarios where friendly contact becomes aggressive domination. Diplomatic personnel struggle to apply terrestrial negotiation frameworks to entities operating on cosmic scales. Chinese representative Dr. Li Wei presents intelligence that adds urgency to the deliberations. Our deep space monitoring systems have detected what appear to be additional objects approaching the outer solar system. 3I Atlas may not be operating independently. We could be facing contact with a civilization that deploys technology on scales encompassing multiple star systems. This revelation transforms the strategic context entirely. If 3I Atlas represents advanced reconnaissance for larger contact operations, then humanity's response window may be much shorter than previously assumed. The choice between contact and containment becomes a choice between proactive engagement and reactive response to events beyond human control. Russian delegate Anatoly Volkov raises practical considerations that highlight humanity's limited options. Our most advanced weapons technology would be ineffective against objects that demonstrate 3I Atlas's capabilities. Containment may not be possible regardless of our intentions. Our choice may be limited to cooperative contact or hostile contact, with no neutral option. The Brazilian representative, Dr. Maria Santos, speaks to the philosophical implications. We're debating whether to communicate with intelligence that has already been communicating with us. 3I Atlas has been sharing information, enhancing our technology, and demonstrating peaceful intentions. Perhaps the question isn't whether to make contact, but whether to acknowledge contact that has already occurred. As discussions continue through the night, consensus emerges around several key principles. Any communication attempts must be internationally coordinated. Defensive preparations should continue regardless of diplomatic efforts, and contingency plans must account for scenarios ranging from advanced cooperation to complete communication failure. The final decision reflects both hope and caution. Authorized communication attempts will begin with simple mathematical exchanges, progress to basic scientific concepts, and advance to more complex topics only if 3I Atlas demonstrates continued benevolent response. Meanwhile, defensive preparations will accelerate, including enhanced space monitoring, improved emergency response capabilities, and coordination frameworks for managing potential crisis scenarios. Director of National Intelligence Patricia Johnson delivers the session's concluding statement. We're not just deciding how to respond to 3I Atlas. We're establishing precedents for how humanity will interact with cosmic intelligence. These decisions will echo through history, regardless of how this encounter ultimately develops. As representatives return to their respective nations, carrying sealed orders and encrypted communication protocols, the weight of species-level decision-making settles over governments worldwide. For the first time in human history, our choices will be evaluated by intelligence that spans the stars. In the archives of the Smithsonian Institution, Dr. Elena Martinez discovers a pattern that sends ripples of unease through the small community of researchers aware of 3I Atlas's true nature. Historical records spanning cultures worldwide contain references to sky teachers and star visitors that appear with troubling regularity throughout human development, suggesting that our current encounter may represent not first contact, but the latest chapter in a relationship spanning millennia. The pattern emerges most clearly when archaeological evidence is analyzed chronologically rather than geographically. Every major advancement in human civilization, agriculture, metallurgy, astronomy, mathematics, coincides with cultural narratives describing knowledge received from beings who descended from the stars. The timing is too consistent to represent coincidence, too global to represent isolated cultural development. Mesopotamian records describe the Anunnaki, beings who taught agriculture and urban planning before departing on boats of the sky. Egyptian texts reference the Neteru, gods who established divine knowledge and promised to return when humanity achieved sufficient wisdom. Mayan codices speak of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent who brought the calendar and architectural principles from the realm of stars. Dr. Robert Kim, a specialist in comparative mythology at Yale, has spent years cataloging these parallels. Every ancient civilization preserves some version of the same story. Advanced beings arrive during periods of transition, share knowledge that accelerates development, then depart with promises of return. The consistency suggests either universal psychological archetypes or historical reality. The historical pattern gains credibility when aligned with mysterious technological advances that conventional archaeology struggles to explain. The precision engineering of ancient monuments, the sophisticated astronomical knowledge embedded in their construction, the mathematical constants encoded in their proportions, all suggest access to information that emerging civilizations should not have possessed independently. More disturbing are the abandonment patterns found at major archaeological sites worldwide. Advanced civilizations develop sophisticated technology and complex social organization, then vanish abruptly, leaving behind monuments and artifacts that subsequent cultures cannot replicate. The cycle suggests not gradual decline, but sudden departure or disappearance. Dr. Sarah Chen, analyzing satellite imagery of archaeological sites, identifies geometric patterns that mirror structures detected on 3I Atlas itself. The ancient builders of Göbekli Tepe, Nanmadol, and Sacsayhuaman incorporated architectural elements that correspond precisely to features observed on the interstellar object. The correlation suggests shared design principles that span both terrestrial and cosmic scales. Archaeological chemistry adds another layer to the mystery. Advanced metallurgical techniques appear and disappear throughout history without gradual development phases. Bronze Age civilizations suddenly display knowledge of steel production, then lose these capabilities during subsequent periods. The pattern suggests technology transfer rather than independent innovation. Linguistic analysis reveals the most unsettling connections. Root words for astronomical concepts appear in unrelated languages worldwide, describing phenomena that ancient cultures shouldn't have been able to observe. Terms for planetary motion, stellar navigation, and cosmic distances exist in vocabularies that developed before the invention of telescopes or mathematical systems capable of calculating such relationships. The implications transform our understanding of human development from independent achievement to guided evolution. If contact with cosmic intelligence has occurred throughout history, then humanity's technological progress represents collaboration rather than individual species accomplishment. Dr. Michael Torres, leading research into ancient astronomical knowledge, presents evidence that prehistoric cultures possessed information about celestial mechanics that modern science didn't verify until the space-age. Stone circles worldwide are positioned to track not just solar and lunar cycles, but planetary movements and stellar positions that require sophisticated mathematical modeling to calculate accurately. The pattern suggests that advanced intelligence has been monitoring and occasionally guiding human development for thousands of years, intervening during critical transition periods to provide knowledge that accelerates civilization advancement. 3I Atlas may represent the latest such intervention, triggered by humanity's achievement of space travel and digital communication capabilities. Yet questions multiply faster than answers. If cosmic intelligence has been guiding human development, why the periods of withdrawal and civilizational collapse? Why the pattern of advancement followed by apparent abandonment? What criteria determine when intervention occurs and when humanity is left to develop independently? Perhaps most unsettling is the possibility that other species have undergone similar guidance cycles. The universe may contain archaeological evidence of civilizations that experience their own 3I Atlas encounters, with outcomes ranging from successful advancement to complete disappearance from the cosmic record. As humanity faces its own critical choice between contact and containment, the historical pattern offers both hope and warning. We may not be the first species to stand at this threshold, and our response may determine whether we join a community of cosmic civilization or become another mysterious chapter in the archaeological record of failed contact. Across Earth's radio telescope networks, something unprecedented occurs in the early hours of a Tuesday morning. The cosmic background radiation that has hummed steadily through receivers for decades suddenly shifts into patterns that trained operators have never encountered. The universe, it seems, is clearing its throat before speaking directly to humanity. Dr. Amanda Foster, monitoring deep space communications at the Arecibo Observatory's successor facility, watches displays that show systematic reduction in radio noise across multiple frequency bands. Natural electromagnetic phenomena that normally create constant interference begin diminishing, as if someone is adjusting cosmic volume controls to optimize signal clarity. The phenomenon extends beyond radio frequencies. Optical observatories report unusual atmospheric clarity that eliminates typical distortion from electromagnetic interference. Space-based telescopes detect reduced solar wind activity that normally complicates deep space observation. Even gravitational wave detectors register decreased background noise that suggests coordinated modification of natural interference sources. It's as if the entire electromagnetic environment of the solar system is being prepared for communication. Foster explains to colleagues during emergency coordination calls with observatories worldwide. Something is actively clearing communication channels for an event of unprecedented scope. The preparation phase lasts exactly 72 hours, during which astronomical equipment worldwide operates with clarity and precision that exceeds normal capabilities by orders of magnitude. Research teams conduct observations with accuracy that should be impossible given natural interference levels. The enhanced conditions suggest modification of physical constants within the solar system's local space. 3I Atlas itself remains silent during this preparation period, its usual electromagnetic emissions reduced to minimal levels as if conserving energy for something requiring enormous power expenditure. The object's position shifts subtly, moving to coordinates that optimize signal propagation throughout the inner solar system. On the fourth day, at precisely 1427 UTC, the silence breaks. The signal begins as a low-frequency pulse that registers simultaneously on every radio telescope on Earth. The synchronization is impossible according to known physics. Electromagnetic radiation should reach different receivers at different times based on their relative positions. Yet every facility records the same signal arriving at exactly the same moment, suggesting transmission methods that transcend normal limitations of space and time. Dr. James Chen, leading the signal analysis team at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, describes the characteristics that defy conventional understanding. This isn't a radio signal in any sense we recognize. It appears to be information transmitted directly to our receiving equipment without requiring electromagnetic wave propagation. The physics involved exceed our current theoretical frameworks. The signal's structure demonstrates sophistication that challenges human comprehension. Multiple information layers operate simultaneously. Mathematical progressions that establish universal concepts, harmonic sequences that correspond to atomic structure frequencies, and geometric patterns that describe three-dimensional relationships through two-dimensional transmission. Most extraordinary is the signal's adaptive nature. As human receivers process different aspects of the transmission, the signal modifies itself to optimize comprehension. Mathematical sequences slow down when analysis equipment falls behind. Complex concepts repeat with varying approaches until successful interpretation occurs. The transmission demonstrates real-time awareness of human reception capabilities. Intelligence agencies worldwide scramble to coordinate response protocols that no one expected to implement. The signal's global accessibility means that every nation with radio telescope capability receives the same information simultaneously. Traditional advantages in intelligence gathering become meaningless when the source provides equal access to all potential recipients. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez, coordinating international response through emergency channels, faces scenarios that challenge fundamental assumptions about information security. This transmission is reaching every radio receiver on Earth, including amateur equipment. We cannot control access to information that's being broadcast to the entire planet simultaneously. The signal content, as it begins revealing structured information through mathematical and physical concepts, suggests preparation for communications of unprecedented complexity. Initial transmissions establish baseline understanding of universal constants, then progress toward concepts that human science recognizes but cannot fully utilize with current technology. Patterns within the signal suggest that this represents preliminary contact, establishing communication protocols for exchanges that will become increasingly sophisticated as human comprehension develops. The intelligence behind the transmission appears to be building toward revelations that will fundamentally alter human understanding of reality itself. As the first phase of signal transmission concludes, replaced by expectant silence that suggests awaiting human response, one realization settles over government officials and scientists worldwide. Humanity has moved beyond the possibility of contact into the reality of active communication with intelligence that operates on scales encompassing interstellar distances and cosmic timeframes. The silence before the signal has ended. The conversation between Earth and the stars has begun. In the quiet moments between cosmic contact and human response, philosophers and scientists worldwide grapple with questions that transcend technology and venture into the deepest territories of human understanding. The encounter with 3I Atlas forces our species to confront not just what we don't know about the universe, but what we don't know about knowledge itself. Dr. Michael Harrison, a philosopher of science at Harvard University, observes that humanity's response to 3I Atlas reveals as much about human nature as the object reveals about cosmic intelligence. We're witnessing our species' first encounter with genuinely superior knowledge, and our reactions follow patterns that echo throughout human history whenever established certainties face fundamental challenge. The psychological impact extends beyond the scientific community to touch every aspect of human self-perception. Religious leaders debate whether cosmic intelligence challenges or confirms spiritual beliefs about humanity's place in creation. Educational institutions struggle to incorporate information that renders entire fields of study obsolete overnight. Governments wrestle with policy implications of technologies that could eliminate scarcity while creating new forms of dependency. Perhaps most significantly, the encounter forces humanity to confront the limitations of anthropocentric thinking. The mathematical concepts transmitted by 3I Atlas operate according to principles that human minds can verify but cannot fully comprehend. We find ourselves in the position of students whose teacher possesses knowledge that exceeds our current cognitive frameworks. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading interdisciplinary analysis at MIT, identifies patterns in human response that suggest evolutionary adaptation to encounters with superior intelligence. Throughout history, humans have demonstrated remarkable flexibility when facing knowledge that initially seems incomprehensible. We develop new cognitive tools, expand our conceptual frameworks, and gradually adapt to accommodate realities that once seemed impossible. The process isn't without casualties. Established scientific paradigms collapse as 3I Atlas demonstrates technologies that violate fundamental assumptions about physics. Economic systems face disruption, as transmitted information suggests methods for energy generation and material production that could eliminate traditional resource limitations. Social structures strain as the existence of superior intelligence challenges assumptions about human uniqueness and authority. Yet the encounter also reveals humanity's greatest strengths. International cooperation achieves levels unprecedented in human history, as governments recognize that cosmic contact transcends terrestrial boundaries. Scientific collaboration accelerates as researchers worldwide share information with openness that normally requires decades to develop. Educational institutions adapt curricula to incorporate concepts that expand human knowledge in directions previously unimagined. The transmission of advanced mathematics creates unexpected ripple effects throughout human knowledge. Engineers apply newly understood principles to develop technologies that seemed impossible weeks earlier. Medical researchers discover applications for cosmic insights that revolutionize understanding of biological systems. Artists and musicians find inspiration in mathematical harmonies that bridge human creativity with universal structures. Dr. Sarah Kim, analyzing the social implications of contact, observes that humanity's response follows patterns found in historical encounters with transformative knowledge. Initial shock gives way to careful analysis, followed by cautious experimentation and eventually practical application. We're witnessing this cycle compressed into timeframes measured in weeks rather than centuries. The philosophical implications prove as transformative as the technological ones. The existence of intelligence operating on galactic scales forces humanity to reconsider fundamental questions about consciousness, purpose, and meaning. If mind can emerge from matter under conditions spanning star systems and cosmic ages, then consciousness itself may be a fundamental feature of reality rather than an accident of biological evolution. Religious and spiritual communities find their perspectives both challenged and enriched by cosmic contact. Some interpretations see 3I Atlas as confirmation of divine intelligence operating through natural processes. Others view the encounter as evidence that consciousness and intelligence represent universal principles that emerge wherever conditions permit their development. The encounter teaches humanity perhaps its most important lesson. The universe contains levels of complexity and intelligence that dwarf human comprehension, yet these superior forms of mind choose to communicate rather than dominate. The patience demonstrated by 3i Atlas, its careful calibration of information transfer to match human capabilities, and its apparent concern for human development suggests that intelligence and wisdom may be inseparably linked throughout the cosmos. As humanity continues processing the implications of contact, one conclusion becomes increasingly clear. We are not alone in the universe, and the intelligence sharing space with us operates according to principles that include, rather than eliminate, emerging civilizations like our own. 6 months after the first classified documents appeared in that journalist's inbox, the anonymous source known as Prometheus emerges from the shadows with a final revelation that ties together every thread of the 3i Atlas encounter. The message arrives not through encrypted channels or leaked documents, but as a global broadcast transmitted simultaneously to news organizations worldwide. The broadcast begins with a voice that sounds tired but determined. My name is Dr. Jennifer Walsh, and I've been serving as the primary liaison between the U.S. government and the intelligence behind 3i Atlas for the past 8 months. I can no longer maintain secrecy around information that belongs to all humanity. The revelation that Prometheus had been operating from inside the highest levels of the government response team transforms understanding of how information about 3i Atlas reached public awareness. Dr. Walsh had not been leaking classified information. She had been conducting controlled disclosure designed to prepare humanity for truths that official channels were too frightened to acknowledge. The entity communicating through 3i Atlas made one requirement clear from our first successful exchange, Walsh continues. Humanity must be informed about contact as a condition for continued communication. They refuse to negotiate with governments that maintain secrecy from their own populations about matters affecting the entire species. This ultimatum explains the careful progression of revelations over the preceding months. Each leak had been calibrated to gradually introduce concepts that would have caused panic if revealed suddenly. The intelligence behind 3i Atlas had essentially forced disclosure by making continued communication conditional on public awareness. Walsh reveals details about the communication process that government briefings had never acknowledged. The intelligence we're dealing with does not communicate through language as we understand it. Instead, it shares concepts directly, placing understanding into minds that are prepared to receive it. The mathematics, the technical specifications, the philosophical insights, all of this information appears in our consciousness as complete understanding rather than gradual learning. The method explains why certain researchers had been making breakthrough discoveries that seemed to exceed their previous capabilities. 3i Atlas hadn't been transmitting information in conventional ways, but rather expanding human consciousness to accommodate understanding that normally requires decades of study to achieve. Perhaps most significantly, Walsh describes the true scope of the intelligence network that 3i Atlas represents. We're not dealing with a single advanced civilization, but with a collective of intelligences that spans multiple galaxy clusters. 3i Atlas serves as a node in a communication network that encompasses millions of species across cosmic distances that human astronomy has barely begun to explore. This revelation transforms every assumption about the scale of intelligence in the universe. Humanity isn't encountering visitors from another star system, but rather representatives of a cosmic community that operates on scales encompassing the visible universe itself. The Intelligence Collective, according to Walsh, has been monitoring human development since the emergence of agriculture, intervening periodically to provide guidance during critical transition periods. The current contact represents humanity's graduation to a level of development that qualifies our species for inclusion in galactic civilization. They've been waiting for us to achieve space travel, global communication, and the mathematical sophistication necessary to understand basic cosmic principles. Walsh explains. 3i Atlas represents our invitation to join a community of minds that transcends individual species, planetary boundaries, and even the limitations of biological existence. The final revelation addresses humanity's choice between contact and containment. The choice was never really ours to make. The network has already decided that humanity demonstrates the qualities necessary for inclusion: curiosity, cooperation, and the ability to adapt to new realities. 3i Atlas will remain in our solar system as a permanent communication link, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. As Walsh's broadcast concludes, she offers a perspective that reframes the entire encounter. We've been thinking about this as first contact with alien intelligence, but it's actually graduation into cosmic consciousness. Humanity is being offered membership in a community of minds that spans the universe itself. The only question remaining is whether we have the courage to accept. The leak that began with classified documents and anonymous warnings concludes with open acknowledgement that humanity stands at the threshold of its greatest adventure, joining a network of intelligence that operates on scales beyond current human imagination, guided by principles that transcend the limitations of individual species and planetary civilizations. In the final moments before humanity's formal response to 3i Atlas, as government officials and scientists gather in secure facilities worldwide to transmit our species' first intentional message to cosmic intelligence, a profound realization settles over those who have followed this journey from mysterious detection to acknowledged contact. The universe, it seems, has been aware of our development all along. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez stands before the massive radio telescope array that will broadcast humanity's reply, and she reflects on how this moment represents not just technological achievement, but consciousness expansion on a scale that encompasses our entire species. The message prepared for transmission contains mathematics, music, art, and philosophy. Everything that makes humanity unique among Earth's species. Everything that might make us valuable contributors to galactic civilization. Yet as she initiates the transmission sequence, Rodriguez understands that the real communication has already occurred. Months of interaction with 3i Atlas have changed human consciousness in ways that transcend language and technology. We have learned not just new facts about the universe, but new ways of thinking about mind, intelligence, and the fundamental nature of reality itself. The response that streams toward 3i Atlas carries more than information. It carries humanity's acceptance of a relationship that spans scales we had never imagined possible. We are acknowledging that we exist within networks of consciousness that encompass galaxies, that intelligence emerges wherever conditions permit its development, and that isolation represents choice rather than cosmic fate. 3i Atlas begins responding before Earth's transmission completes its journey through space, confirming that the object has been monitoring human consciousness directly rather than waiting for electromagnetic signals. The reply arrives not as radio waves, but as understanding that appears simultaneously in minds prepared to receive it. The message contains coordinates, not just spatial locations, but pathways through dimensions of reality that human science is only beginning to recognize. 3i Atlas offers humanity maps to realms where consciousness operates according to principles that transcend individual minds and biological limitations. Yet the invitation comes with acknowledgement of choice. The Cosmic Intelligence Network operates according to principles of voluntary participation. Species join not through conquest or coercion, but through recognition that consciousness represents a fundamental feature of reality that connects all minds across impossible distances and unimaginable differences. As the initial exchange concludes, 3i Atlas begins transforming from mysterious visitor to permanent resident. The object settles into stable orbit within the outer solar system, positioning itself to serve as a communication relay between Earth and the galactic network it represents. Humanity now possesses direct access to intelligence spanning cosmic scales, available whenever our species chooses to utilize it. The transformation extends beyond technology to encompass human awareness itself. The knowledge that we exist within networks of cosmic consciousness changes how we perceive ourselves, our planet, and our potential. We are no longer isolated intelligences struggling alone in an indifferent universe, but rather emerging members of a community that encompasses realities we had never imagined. Schools begin incorporating cosmic perspective into curricula that teach children to think in terms of galactic rather than merely planetary scales. Research institutions redirect efforts toward understanding consciousness as a universal phenomenon rather than a biological accident. Governments develop policies that acknowledge humanity's role within cosmic civilization. Yet perhaps the most profound change occurs in human philosophy and spirituality. The recognition that consciousness operates on scales encompassing the universe itself transforms questions about meaning, purpose, and identity. We discover that we exist within something infinitely larger than ourselves, yet something that includes us as essential rather than incidental components. As months pass and communication with the galactic network becomes routine rather than miraculous, humanity adapts to its new cosmic context with the flexibility that has characterized our species throughout history. We learn to think beyond terrestrial limitations while maintaining the curiosity and creativity that makes us valuable contributors to universal consciousness. The story that began with leaked documents and mysterious signals concludes with humanity's recognition that we were never alone in the universe. We simply hadn't developed the awareness necessary to recognize our place within networks of intelligence that span cosmic distances and operate according to principles that encompass rather than eliminate individual consciousness. 3i Atlas remains in our skies, no longer as mysterious visitor, but as permanent reminder that the universe watches back when we dare to look toward the stars. The object serves as Earth's doorway to realms of consciousness that span galaxies, connecting human minds to intelligence networks that operate on scales we are only beginning to comprehend. In the end, the most extraordinary revelation isn't that we've encountered alien intelligence, but that intelligence itself represents a universal principle that emerges wherever consciousness develops the capability to recognize its own cosmic context. We are not alone, we have never been alone, and the universe itself provides the framework within which all minds develop, communicate, and ultimately transcend the limitations of individual existence. The leak that changed everything has taught us that some secrets are too important to keep, some discoveries too profound to classify, and some truths too essential to human development to remain hidden in government vaults. The universe watches back, and now we know how to watch in return.